The Minnesota Timberwolves have just made a significant move in the offseason, sending guard Nickeil Alexander-Walker to the Atlanta Hawks in a sign-and-trade deal that will have ripple effects across the NBA. In return, the Timberwolves will receive a 2027 second-round pick, cash, and a trade exception. But this trade is about more than just assets. It's a reflection of how the Wolves are managing their roster and the financial constraints they face moving forward. Now, let's take a closer look at the player at the center of this deal, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He wasn't always in the position he's in today. In fact, when he arrived in Minnesota in March 2020, his career was hanging by a thread. Alexander-Walker was part of the deal that brought veteran point guard Mike Conley to the Timberwolves in exchange for D'Angelo Russell. At the time, Alexander-Walker's future in the NBA wasn't certain. He was about to hit free agency, he wasn't getting much playing time with a struggling Utah Jazz team, and he had to prove he could contribute in a meaningful way. And that's exactly what he did. Fast forward to the present, and Alexander-Walker has made the most of his opportunity with the Timberwolves. Over the past 2 seasons, he's been a key contributor, particularly with his defense and versatility. His ability to play both ends of the floor made him a valuable asset for the Wolves, and it ultimately helped him land a 4-year, $62 million deal with the Atlanta Hawks, according to ESPN. But how exactly does this sign-and-trade work? Well, Alexander-Walker will officially sign with the Timberwolves before being sent to the Hawks, where he'll join a team looking to bolster its roster. For the Timberwolves, this move was a bit of a financial maneuver. By executing a sign-and-trade, the Wolves were able to get Alexander-Walker's contract slightly above the mid-level exception of around $14 million, while also preserving the Hawks' ability to use their mid-level exception on other players. Why does this matter? It all comes down to the luxury tax and roster-building restrictions. The Timberwolves have been navigating some tough financial waters, particularly after signing key players like Naz Reid and Julius Randle to new contracts. With limited cap space left under the second apron of the luxury tax, the Wolves didn't want to enter that territory for a second consecutive season. If they did, they'd face restrictions like not being able to combine salaries in trades or freezing draft picks in future trades. In other words, it would limit their flexibility in the future. This is why, despite Alexander-Walker becoming a key two-way player for the Wolves, they ultimately had to let him go. His departure opens up the space the team needs to make future moves and stay under the tax threshold. It's a tough decision, but one that makes sense when you look at the bigger picture. So, what did the Timberwolves lose in Alexander-Walker? A lot, actually. After becoming a regular in the rotation, Alexander-Walker played 82 games in both of the past 2 seasons, averaging 8.4 points per game while shooting 38.4% from 3. But it wasn't just his scoring that made him valuable. His defense, along with his ability to play some point guard, made him a versatile piece for the Wolves. And when injuries hit the team, including a key injury to Jaden McDaniels in the 2023 postseason, Alexander-Walker stepped up. He even started for the team during that critical stretch, proving his worth as a player who could impact the game on both ends of the floor. And while losing Alexander-Walker stings, the Timberwolves do have some flexibility moving forward. They now have 13 players under contract for next season and roughly $7 million in space under the second apron to sign at least one more player. The team can use their taxpayer mid-level exception of just under $5.7 million to bring in another piece to complement their current roster. It's not an ideal situation, but it's one that gives them the ability to make future moves if necessary. But that's not the only loss the Timberwolves are dealing with. The team also said goodbye to fan favorite Luka Garza, who agreed to a 2-year deal with the Boston Celtics. Garza, who had been a key depth piece for the Wolves, played 92 games over the last 3 seasons, averaging 4.5 points per game. While his departure may not have the same impact as losing Alexander-Walker, it does leave a hole at the end of the Timberwolves bench. So, what's next for the Timberwolves? With Alexander-Walker heading to Atlanta and Garza off to Boston, the team will have to regroup and adjust their strategy. They're still in a strong position to make some noise in the Western Conference, but they'll need to continue making smart financial moves and roster decisions to stay competitive.